It's a Thursday and it's section 1904. Darren Smith from a really, really rainy, stormy Valencia, España, and John Gennaro back in Carlsbad, California, where I presume to be a much better weather situation than what it is that I'm facing. Timing is everything, as they say in life. And it has moved just past, 6 o'clock here? Just past 6 o'clock in Valencia. And it had been predicted that there was going to be significant rain in the forecast, so much so that my wife and I here, on our final day in Valencia before we get on a train to go to Barcelona tomorrow, had actually started looking into indoor activities like cultural stuff, museums, a massage, an indoor wine tasting, since we've already done the paella cooking class. And all of these things were booked. So we ended up taking our chances, and we walked around the city. There's about to be a huge thunderclap here, just so you'll know. And we walked around all day, and it was really very pleasant. Sun was out, sun was strong, felt like I got some sun as we were sitting out and having a terrific, terrific lunch here in Valencia. But we just got back into our Airbnb. Thankfully, the Wi-Fi is working for now, and as soon as we started recording, the skies just opened up. I'm looking out on the patio where I've been podcasting for the last couple of days, and it is raining. And I can see the flashes of lightning off the sides of the buildings right across the alleyway. And we are hearing thunder. So I'm just setting the scene here so that everybody knows exactly what it is that's going on for me, who had to move the whole operation indoors here. No more ambiance from the streets of Valencia. But you will get a little bit of potential weather interruption. Hopefully our power stays on. It's kind of a thing here in Spain, and Valencia is a little prone to flooding, as we have learned. But knock on wood, John, we will make this happen here for the next however many minutes, and you get to enjoy some thunderclaps in the background potentially here on section 1904. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's going to be a nice sunny day here in North County, coastal San Diego. I think it's going to get up to like 73, 75 where I'm at. Looking forward to it. Not a rainy day. I have a question, being the stand-in for the audience. There's probably someone listening wondering this same thing. Did your clothes come in from off the patio, or are they out there getting soaked in the rain?
They did come in. As a matter of fact, we felt an incredible amount of pressure to do our laundry because we looked ahead at the forecast and said there is some rain. So we didn't want to find ourselves in a situation where our clothes would be outside, potentially outside, while it was raining here. So when we booked this Airbnb, and I got to admit, I was kind of, the benefit of hindsight's a funny thing. Because one of the reasons why we booked an Airbnb in Valencia was we would be here at the midway point of this trip. And in order to pack for a 2-week trip, you bring enough, or at least my plan is, just a little travel hack here, is you bring enough clothing to get you to the midway point, and then you do some laundry. Wow.
I can't believe you still have internet after that.
You should have seen how bright the flash was. That's why you saw what you saw here as we're recording, and that's why you heard what you heard. So I just was bracing for that. This 1,000-year-old building, I'm sure it's seen worse, but yeah. I've never been in a 1,000-year-old building while this sort of stuff is happening outside. But anyway, so when we booked the Airbnb, one of the things that we looked for was, does it have laundry? And it said washer, and sometimes in Europe, the washer and the dryer are the same exact appliance. Yeah. So you just, I don't know how they do it. It's kind of a miraculous thing that I've never really seen in the States. But you can do your wash, you can wash your clothes, and then the thing just turns into a dryer. Yeah. It's amazing. And so I figured that was it. John, you tell me, do you want me to close that door?
I mean, I can hear the rain.
Okay. Because my wife is offering to do this.
Sure.
So, okay.
That'll probably help the audio a little bit.
Okay, if
Rain's
we can.
Pleasant, though.
But sure enough, it was as advertised. It was a wash. And it was only a wash, so we had to put our clothes outside. And so, as I said yesterday in my 15-minute rambling monologue, our underwear were hanging outside of this building in Valencia for everybody to see. It was a totally different experience, but everything is dry. For the most part, I think I have a sweatshirt that still has a little bit of moisture. One of the things they do have here also is a towel warmer. So we've kept the towel warmer plugged in for about 24 hours now. So some of the wet clothes have been hanging on the towel warmer.
Nice.
So that has served to dry things off. But yes, I do think everything has been pulled inside, thankfully, just in the nick of time. So thank you for asking. But we do have clean clothes. We are starting to pack up. We are a little bit sad that we're leaving Valencia because it has treated us very, very well, and we feel like we just discovered a part of town today that we've only found on what is our last day here, and we would love to go experience it. And it looks like there's all sorts of great cafes and bars and things to do and culture, and it's really, really local, and it's a little bit off the historic beaten path where it is that we're staying. But alas, we have time for one more dinner, and then we have time for a little bit of evening activity, and then we're off to the train tomorrow at 11:25. So it's been a blast. Valencia has been phenomenal. We've really, really loved it here. It's really been a terrific, terrific place. We love going to Barcelona, but we also know now we are unfortunately on the slope to next Wednesday when we fly back to the States. So it's been a phenomenal trip. We still have 2 more cities to go between Barcelona and Girona, and we're going to make the most of it. But should be a ton of fun. Who knows? Maybe I'll just stay here, John. I feel like there's something to be said. I know the Padres have lost a couple straight games, but I'm shocked to wake up and read these text messages from you, from others, from friends about what it is that's going on with the Knicks. SDFC had its greatest match ever. So maybe the sports universe is trying to tell me something, that I should stay put here, because all these good things, of which I miss so much, I miss almost all of it. But I wake up and it puts me in such a good mood to check my phone in the morning and have literally dozens of text messages from friends telling me about the great things that are happening with my sports teams.
Yeah, I actually I felt bad for you last night. I was, I know this podcast makes it sound like you are a world traveler and I never leave my house, and there's a little bit of truth to that. But I am going to a concert tonight at the Belly Up. I'm excited about that. And last night I went to trivia at the Mason Ale Works in Vista, so right around the corner from me. And while I was there, Dylan Cease had a no-hitter going, and the Knicks were getting absolutely stomped by the Celtics. And I was there with a friend who hates the Celtics. He doesn't really root for a team anymore. He's originally a Seattle Supersonics fan, but he mostly roots against the Thunder, who he calls the Zombie Sonics, and the Celtics because he hates them so much. And as you know, I also hate the Celtics, so this was a joy for me. So him and I at one point just parked in front of the TV that had the Celtics Knicks game on, because he came over and grabbed me and he was like, "The Knicks are coming back. The Knicks are coming back." And so I got to enjoy the last few minutes of this game, and the people around us, just strangers in Vista, California, were also all rooting for the Knicks to come back and beat the Celtics. And so at the end of the game, when Miles Bridges, for the second game in a row, the Celtics are given a last-second shot, and before they can even get the shot off, Miles Bridges just steals the ball. When it happens, half of this brewery tasting room just explodes in cheers like they're lifelong Knicks fans. And I was like, man, Darren's asleep right now. These are moments that his friends are going to be like, "Hey, remember that 2-game stretch against the Celtics a few years ago?" And you're going to be like, "Why don't I remember watching that?" And it's going to be because you were on the other side of the world. And now I was trying to explain to my wife, a new Knicks fan, I was like, they're going back to Madison Square Garden. I don't know if you've looked this up, Darren. I have heard, even before Game 2 last night, that tickets for Games 3 and 4 of this series at Madison Square Garden, you could not get in the door for less than $1,000. And that they were basically saying that these tickets were priced possibly higher than what typical NBA Finals tickets are at. Madison Square Garden is going to be on fire. It's going to be hot. If Spike Lee doesn't have a heart attack during one of these games, it's going to actually be an upset. And I was like, this is the best Knicks playoff moment in 20 years, maybe 30 years. And I thought about you because I was like, Darren's missing it. And then this morning I woke up and I was like, I know that these games take a lot out of you when you watch them. You ride the emotional roller coaster. I was like, I wonder if he prefers this. Just waking up and going hey, the Knicks won. Good. That's a healthier relationship with your favorite NBA team.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to wake up and go through the messages. It's funny what you said about the get-in price, the ticket price, because that was on the Merry Knicksmas group chat.
Sure.
So, and I do wake up and I kind of scroll through this just trying to see like what it is that's happening. Is this the roller coaster? And, this is at 3:15 a.m. where I am. Scat Daddy, 21-2 run. Wow. Huge. LFG. Josh Hart, great game. Bridges insane in the fourth. Terrible 1-3. Lit up the, And then one of them is walk-in price for Saturday is $750. So I guess that was an early price was $750. It probably has gone up to $1,000. Jim Russell had the text for me. He just said, "Holy shit, the Knicks." And like, what am I going to say? So, you have gone into great detail, like in great detail. You have actually sent play-by-play for what it is that is happening. And, then you just got to piece it all together. I'd be sitting there by myself probably on the couch watching the Knicks. I can't really convince Leah to get into that all that much. She's much more on the football side, on the soccer side, than she is on the baseball side or the basketball side. But if it's important, she'll jump into it. I will just say, I am so shocked that they are up 2-0. I am absolutely shocked. But trying to piece it all together from across the world, and even for us on a much more local level, the Padres, trying to piece together what it was that happened in the Padre game last night takes a little bit of time as well. Because like you said about Dylan Cease, who had a no-hitter, and then like that stupid Twitter app, man, like it's just so unusable because, I try to log on there just to piece it together, to cobble together what it is. And one of the first things I see is a post from Darnay Tripp, who's pointing out that there's been a couple of brilliant defensive plays in the game. And then there's a bit of commentary about that. I'm like, oh, did Dylan Cease throw a no-hitter? So, the first thing I think is Dylan Cease might have thrown a no-hitter. Yeah. And then, everything's out of order on that stupid app.
Right.
It's so fucking out of order. You're like, what is it? It's impossible. So, you end up having to go to a traditional site and see what it was. And then even some of the stuff that AC wrote was a little confusing to me. Yeah. The way he wrote his game story, it was about Xander Bogaerts not coming through in the ninth inning when it turns out like Manny needed a productive out and he could have brought a run in. Yep. So, it takes you a little while to pull it all together, but I don't know. I guess it's, it's fun to wake up to. Now I'm starting to think, do I wake up for game 3? Or because I'm in Barcelona, will I be up for game 3, right? So, that's a little bit of a later night type situation in Barcelona than it is here in Valencia. So, maybe I'll be up anyway and it'll just be on. I always remember the first time we went to Barcelona was in 2010. And I remember this like it was yesterday. The Giants were in the World Series. The Giants played who in the World Series that year? Kansas City, I want to say. Maybe it was Kansas City. Does that sound right?
Or Texas? I think
Texas. I think it was Texas. Yeah. And I really remember like us walking up and down Las Ramblas looking for a bar to watch the baseball at 2 a.m, at 3 a.m, and us finding bars that were showing baseball. And we were asking bartenders, we were asking, like, do you have satellite? Can you get MLB International? Can you get the Portes? I will always remember looking up at the screen and seeing Rick Sutcliffe's face on a television in a bar in the Gothic Quarter in Barcelona. So, just because we wanted to watch the World Series that year. We'll see what happens over the weekend. Although maybe you don't mess with a winning streak, John, as the saying goes. Maybe I go out of my way not to watch any of this and just keep my fingers crossed and hope that the success continues for the Knickerbockers here. Maybe that's the actual real play of it all.
See, I don't. I believe in the power of like a team doing goofy shit together. Like, I believe in rally caps. I think the 98 Padres and Kevin Brown made me a believer in rally caps because it's just like the team gets together, it starts chatter, everyone starts thinking about the silly hats and they stop, being tight about the game. But I don't believe in like my team has won a couple games in a row, so I need to wear the same shirt or be in the same place or something like that. That being said, I mentioned that I was at trivia, and I mentioned either on the podcast or not that our buddy H.J. Preller joined me at trivia because we're on the same trivia team. And I'm watching the Dylan Cease start, and I'm like, I keep checking my app, and I'm like, holy shit, he hasn't given up a hit. And I'm checking he had like 50-something pitches, 62 pitches. He's in like the 5th inning, and I'm like, he could do this. He could go 9. He could pitch a no-hitter. And his stuff is just nasty. It's falling off the table. No one can touch it. He's being aggressive with it. And I'm like, this is great. I get in the car to drive to the brewery, and I hear Jesse Agler mention that the Yankees have been held hitless, and I'm like, oh, Jesse did it. Jesse did the thing. But then I think that they get to the 6th inning. He gets through the 6th inning, and I'm like, man, he might actually do this. And then the 7th inning starts, and H.J. Preller walks in. Like, I see him walk from his car to where I'm sitting. And as soon as he, like, crosses the threshold and enters the brewery, I get the notification on my phone, Cody Bellinger home run, right? And I'm like, oh, shit. And he comes in, and I was like, everything was going great until you decided to leave your car and walk in here. You changed the whole... So I can give people shit about it, but I'm not a big believer in that. I don't know if you being in San Diego would have changed anything about the Knicks beating the Celtics. I think the Celtics are just a little, I don't know, mind-fucked right now.
Especially that game. That's the one for me, again, and you tell me since you watched it. And I don't believe in any of that. You know, it actually always surprises me when somebody points out that somebody does have a no-hitter, and people seem to seriously be critical of that on social media. You're like, angry. Wait a second, say what? Like you actually believe that shit? You know, people. I'm always blown away that people actually do believe that they want to blame a broadcaster.
On the game, yeah,
they want to blame a broadcaster. They want to blame somebody who points out on Twitter or X or whatever that somebody's got a no hitter through 7 innings. You know, like it always. Like I probably don't do that because A, I don't really post a lot.
Yeah.
And B, like I don't really want to deal with those kind of people. But I've seen it before where people from the press box have pointed out such and such a pitcher is, you know, that you know, it's a no-hitter through 6. And like you cannot believe that people actually take that stuff seriously.
Those are dugout
to the point where
rules.
They like attack them, right?
They're dugout rules. They shouldn't extend beyond the dugout. Like those are dugout rules.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're even to the point now on television where they put up the banner on the screen where it says, you know, no hitter through 6 or no hitter through 7, which you know, also is an interesting conversation to me about when is somebody officially flirting with a no hitter? Like, when is the point where you flirt with a no hitter? Is it through 6? I think it's probably through 6.
I think it's
sometimes people bring it up in the 4th. I'm always like, wait, way too early.
No, I think it's through 6 if your pitch total is low. Like that's the moment where I kind of sat up and went like, oh, hold on now, he could actually do this, and that's when I started really paying attention.
Yeah, and you know, listen, the last couple of days, I guess if you're going to go 4-2 on a road trip, it's probably the worst thing to lose the last 2. You know, just from a mental standpoint, right? Just from a vibe standpoint, you know, if you're gonna go 4-2, you probably want to, you know, lose one of those ones early so you go home happy. But just bizarre to see the bullpen, which has been the strength or a strength, I guess, a strength over the last couple of games, be the culprit. I don't know what more you could have asked for. And, you know, this team is 0-2 in extra innings, John. You pushing any panic buttons there? Are you sounding the alarm? Is this, you know, we made a big deal about winning extra inning games last year in 2024 compared to 2023 when Sleepy Bob was at the helm. So are you pushing any panic buttons because the team is 0-2 in extra innings, or do you need a little bit more?
I need a little bit more. The only it's not a panic button, but the last 2 games, the game has been given up by the bullpen. And I noticed that because the bullpen had been so great. But also, when Jason Adam gave up the, you know, kind of game-winning run last night, I was like, it feels like Jason Adam pitches in every freaking Padres game. Like, everyone. Win or loss or tie, like, and I mentioned
he gave up the tying runs, right? Just because I'm asking because I had to piece this together today. He gave up the 2-run home run to Trent Grisham.
I know he gave up 2 runs, so that makes sense.
And then I think it was Estrada who was on there in extras.
That's right. Estrada gave it up. And honestly, it was like a, you know, someone hit like a weak single, so you're starting with a guy on second base, and now you have guys on first and third. Yankees win on a sac fly. Like, that's, and granted, like, I like the fact that we don't have like 18, 19 inning games anymore.
Same.
But sometimes when it happens that fast, you're like, oh, that was like just very anticlimactic.
I'm with you 1,000% on that, by the way, because I've seen those 18 and 22 inning games. I'll always remember, you know, it was early on in our relationship. Lee and I actually went to that game, that 22 inning game against the Colorado Rockies. No, we didn't stay, obviously, but we went to that game, and then we went out in the gas lamp afterwards. Then we went back to it was,
the game was still going.
And then like she went to sleep and she woke up. She's like, is this a replay? I'm like, no, this is the same game. That game wrecked that bullpen. Those games will ruin a bullpen. So I'm with you. I know it's not ideal, and I know it's something for the traditionalists to bitch and moan over all the time. But I like saying, hey, let's not do any further damage and be playing 15, 17 innings in the middle of May. That's kind of bonkers. That's kind of crazy to me. So I think I'd rather avoid that. And of course, it had to be Grisham, right? Grisham, who, in case you hadn't noticed, has 7 home runs already this year. Trent Grisham.
He hit 2 against the Padres in this series.
Yeah.
It looked like Trent Grisham, wanted his revenge against the Padres, and in some way, shape, or form, he got it. At the end of the day, like, I looked at the quotes from like Merrill and Machado and everything after the series, and they had the same take I had, which is like, the Yankees are a good team. Like, we played them even. There's not an even number of games. They won this one, and they get to win the series. But I think they matched the Yankees, game for game, pitch for pitch, player for player. Those are 2 very evenly matched teams. If those 2 teams ended up in a World Series against each other, it would not be like, holy shit, how did that happen? It would be like, oh, okay, good, 2 good teams playing against each other. Cool.
Yeah, and the Yankees are in first place in the American League East. So, it's early, obviously. Could change. Padres are 23-13, and I know we've made a vow not to spend a ton of time on the standings, but every once in a while you just take a peek at it just to remind yourself of where everybody is. I don't know what more you could have asked for in extra innings either, by the way. Let's also say, like, it's right to point out that sometimes the back of the lineup isn't doing all that much, right? There have been times where people have said, I'm concerned about the back of the lineup. I'm concerned about, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever. Merrill now makes it a longer lineup, obviously. But to start extra innings, you had a runner on second. Whoever the catcher was ends up being pinch run for by Lockridge.
Yeah.
And it's, Tatis, Arise, Machado, Merrill, Bogarts. I mean, I don't know what more you could have asked for. You had your guys up in that situation, and you couldn't get a run across with a runner standing on second, a speedy runner who ended up taking third, who was at third base with less than 2 outs. I don't know what more you could have asked for. This wasn't one where you're like, well, I don't know, man, we need some reinforcements in the lineup, or this guy went 0 for 4 on the night. And it's not any of that. It's not about the catchers. It's about you had that set up pretty well, and Tatis punched out, Arise walks, Manny strikes out with a runner on third, and 1 out, and then hit by pitch on Merrill, and Bogart swings at a changeup off the plate, and I don't know what more you could have asked for. You put your players, and I'm with you. I think this is you couldn't have set it up any better.
Right.
You had your setup guy on the mound in the 8th inning. He walks a batter. He gives up a 2-run jack, and you had the best hitters on your team in a position to do some damage, and it didn't come through.
I want to give you 2 stats to kind of back up everything you're saying. Number 1, Jason Adam, in the last 3 seasons, when he has been a heavily used relief pitcher, has pitched 63 innings, 54 innings, 73 innings. Last year was his career high, 73 innings. He is currently on pace to pitch 90 innings, 17 more than his career high. And that's the kind of the point I was getting at when I was like, it feels like Adam is pitching every game. Like, Schilt really, really likes I'm going to bring in Adam in the 8th, and I'm going to bring Suarez in the 9th, and it's going to be Estrada in the 7th, and it's going to be Morejon in the 6th. And he's not really deviating from that unless they're like blowing someone out or getting blown out. And as a result, I think I'm not going to say like he's got a dead arm or something like that, but these guys are starting to get hit in ways that they weren't like a week ago. And I think they're just getting tired because he's using them way too much. The other side of it is, you teased me a week or 2 ago on Twitter when I posted that video of, I think it was like Mark DeRosa breaking down Fernando Tatis' swing and saying like, look, he got rid of the big leg kick. And now that he got rid of the big leg kick, his head's not moving as much. He's seeing the ball better, but he's still got all that power and the quick hands and everything. We have noticed, Darren, the Padres fans, and I think members of the media, Darnay Tripp noticed it. I noticed it. Some fans noticed it in our Discord. The kick is back. it's not back every swing. It's not back every plate appearance. It feels like it's a thing that he's regressing into almost by accident, because it's not always there. But in the last, so Tatis's slashes right now, 319 batting average, 388 OBP. That's not great. 548 slugging, OPS of 936. That is great. In the last week, 6 games, 3 against the Yankees, 3 against the Pirates, Tatis is batting 182, and he's slugging 273. His OBP is 280 because he's, hitting 182. That's bad. He's officially in a slump. This has been a bad week for Fernando Tatis Jr. Probably a good time to head to Coors Field in Colorado tomorrow. Probably a good time to head home after that and just settle everything down. But part of why bringing up the top of the order is not as foolproof a plan to score runs as it used to be is Tatis is he's having a hard time right now. He's having a hard time making the type of contact he wants to make. I feel like I've noticed that when he makes contact with that big leg kick, it feels like it just has a little less oomph behind it. He had a couple hits in Tuesday's game. One was a fly out to center, and the other one landed in an alley, and I think it was a double. The way he swings, you would think it would be a home run, and it just ends up kind of like mid outfield. And I'm like, that to me says whatever power he was generating from his legs is just not there right now, because I think he's swinging more with his arms and his shoulders, and he's not getting his full body into it. Not that I'm a fucking hitting instructor or anything like that, but there's things going on. They're wearing down a little bit a month into the season, 2 months into the season, whatever it is, and they need some R&R. So it's a good day for a day off, a good time for a trip to Colorado, and good time to come back after that.
Yeah, and that's why I tease, because I gave up on being a mechanics guy or an X's and O's guy a long time ago. Not to say that people who haven't played can't do it. There's a lot of smart people who notice that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I sort of think oftentimes there's so much more happening than any of us actually realize. So, I thought it was interesting, when you brought it up. I thought it was interesting that MLB Network brought it up. I thought it was interesting that Darnay noticed something. That's like, oh, wow. That's actually a really, really interesting observation in real time for people to notice that sort of stuff. I just have no clue what it is that he's doing. So, from that standpoint, it might be something that they're working on. It might not be something that they're working on. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure at all. You think he's in a slump? Are you ready to say? And it's not just him. When you talk about the lineup, I mean, Manny gets paid a lot of money too, Manny gets paid a lot of money. So, he can drive a run in every once in a while. So, it's not just him. I'm just saying it was set up to the point where if you were to say, who do you want at the plate in these situations, I think you would have said, top of the order sounds pretty good to me with a runner on second and nobody out.
Do you want Manny's stats over the same 6-game period?
Sure.
You don't. Batting average, 435, OBP 519, slugging 652 for an OPS of 1171 with a home run, 3 RBIs, stolen base, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts. But he's been great.
But he did have an at-bat on that night in the 10th inning.
Yeah,
that's my point.
No, I know. And that's, yes. Yeah, no, he's not always going to come through in those situations, but that's what he gets paid for, and he didn't come through last night, and neither did Bogaerts.
And that's why I was a little confused. I'll just read the paragraph here, not because I feel like, and I'm not even dumping on AC. Let's see. Facing Devin Williams, against whom they scored 4 runs in the 8th inning in Monday's 4-3 victory, the Padres could not get a runner home, who reached third with 1 out in the 10th. A strikeout by Bogaerts left the bases loaded. It's like, okay. So, like, was it Bogaerts? Did he strike out with 1 out? And it just sort of it made me go back through the game log to say, Bogaerts was the final out. But, Manny gets paid to come through in that situation. So, again, you had the ace of your staff, or an ace, a frontline starting pitcher take a no-hitter into the 7th. You had one of your better bullpen arms, and you had the right guys in the right situation. Oh, by the way, Max Fried's pretty good too. A pretty good player. So only 6 hits on the whole night. Tatis, Manny had 2 of them, Merrill had 2 of them, and Xander had the other, and that was that. So I don't know.
Devin Williams struck out the side.
Yeah, I know. You got Tatis first. It was weird. Can you explain this to me? So the way the game log went, it said Lockridge is at second. So he's pinch running.
Yep.
Tatis strikes out,
Yep.
then the stolen base, then the walk. So I was a little confused about the stolen base after the first out of the inning. Was there anything there that was noteworthy, or is it just sort of the chronology and just move on? Because if you're going to steal a base, do you not do it? Does Tatis not like seeing people run around out there when he's batting?
I have no idea. I actually missed it. Like I saw the beginning of Tatis' at bat, and then I kind of wandered towards the Knicks game, and then came back and Arise was up like 2-0 or whatever. So I missed whatever happened. If I were to guess based on this, my guess would be that when Tatis swung at the third pitch, it like bounced away, and they had to throw him out, and Lockridge got to set. But I don't know. I'm not sure.
Probably nothing. Hey, listen, this isn't a post-game show. You lose some of these games, and you lose against a good team, and you come back, or you continue 4-2 on the road trip, and you get to play the Colorado Rockies. So, I think even some of the quotes from Schilt afterwards, I don't know, should we blame the manager, John? I don't understand why he didn't get himself ejected from either of these two games. Feels like the losing streak coincides with Mike Schilt not getting himself ejected from either one of these baseball games, since that apparently is such a key to victory in Major League Baseball.
I said something on Tuesday's game, I think, when the bullpen gave up a couple of runs and it felt like it was going to get bad, and I was like, now's a great time for Schilt to get himself ejected. Come on, fire those guys up. Yeah, you can't do it every game, I don't think.
No, but maybe some people, if it's such an integral part of success in Major League Baseball, maybe you should consider it.
Did you see
just
the
way
lip reading?
It rallied the troops the other day in Game 1 of this series?
Did you see John Boy did the lip reading for Mike Schilt's ejection?
No,
it's so weird. It's so weird. Apparently, Mike Schilt has a lot of pride about the fact that his players don't get ejected. And like he's got a very like well-behaved dugout of players. And so he's actually screaming at the ump at one point and going, "Do you know how many of my guys have been ejected?" And he's like, Seven in 2 years, only 7 of them, and I've been 4 of them. My guys have only been ejected 3 times. And it was
right?
That's and like John Boy literally said, he was like, I had to go look this up so I could make sense of what he was saying. And he's like, and he's right. He's got all the numbers right. But like you could tell, he's like, I have the best behaved dugout in baseball. And it was such a weird thing to hang your hat on. But I guess he was just trying to make the point that the guy was like, oh, your guys were chirping. He's like, no, my guys don't chirp. I have the best behaved. But the first thing he did, which is just so funny, and it's just predictable. You saw the thing where he tossed the paper, and then he tossed the pen, and then he tossed his glasses. Yeah. When he tossed his glasses, the first thing he says to the ump, like he's taking the glasses off and throwing them. He goes, "Do you want to go?" And he's like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh man!" Like when I was watching, I was like, "Is he gonna swing at him?" And yeah, he did in fact challenge that umpire to a fight.
He did? Well, you could tell. I mean, I think we talked about it the other day. The first thing he says is to Tatis, he's like, did he throw you out?
Yeah.
He seems totally shocked that Tatis
right, and then he goes to the umpire and goes, did you throw him out?
Goes, did you throw him out?
And that's when he starts complaining. My guys don't get thrown out. I have the best dugout in baseball. What are you doing?
That is a weird thing to hang your hat on. But, I guess if you're the manager, the whole point, right? And I think it's a little... again, this is where I sort of chuckle at the whole concept and how seriously. I understand it's an entertaining part of the game, right? Because when you posted either on the Discord channel or you posted on Blue Sky about, what is the impact of a manager being ejected? And people said it's just funny. Like, it's just a funny thing. It's just as entertaining.
Yeah, we all have
we
our
don't need to
favorite
overanalyze.
Manager ejections.
I know. I just feel like in a world sometimes where we're just dealt and force-fed heaping teaspoons of tablespoons of inaccurate information. I always feel compelled to just set the record straight about how many times current and former managers have been ejected from baseball games. But anyway, not the point. Not to have the same conversation again.
Yeah.
It is fun. I would agree with you. Like, it is a funny thing. But, I think part of it is, I love a manager who's going to go out there and protect his players. And there is something to that. And I'm sure a lot of managers say, you don't get ejected. I will get ejected. And I'm guessing that is something that Mike Schilt probably has expressed to his team. That, that's why he had that. You guys aren't going to be the ones to get ejected. I will go out there and I will get ejected instead of you. And this time he couldn't get out there quick enough because Tatis is like, hey, I'm done. Like, I'm out of here. And there was nothing to protect Fernando from in that situation. He said it. He probably knew he was going to get ejected, and he didn't even seem to be protesting it. He just was like, hey, I'm out of here. I checked out of this thing. Fuck you up. I'm going back into the dugout or whatever he said. And he didn't even turn around and protest it. He was already done. There was nothing to protect him from. That's just that's an obligatory managerial ejection for Schilt. He didn't. Yep. It's not the strike zone. It's like, well, my superstar player got thrown out. I have to get thrown out. I now have to get thrown out of this game. Otherwise, how is that going to make me look? So, that's kind of the read on that from the other night. But that's interesting that he takes such pride. He must say that to the players. Do not get tossed out of one of these games. Yeah, I will get tossed. Yeah. He must express that to the guys.
It's like there was no lead up to the Tatis thing. There was no the umpire going hey, shut your mouth or I'm gonna. And John Boy even tried to do lip reading for Tatis, and he was like, I'm not entirely sure what he's saying, but it kind of looks like he just leans over towards the ump as he's walking back to the dugout, and it looks like he says, that one's on you, or that one's your fault, and the ump's just you're gone. And that's why Schilt was like, wait, what? No one gave me a chance. I didn't get a chance to be the human meat shield for my player.
Push him aside, right? Let me get in the way. Let me get between my player and the umpire, right? Yeah. All that sort of fun stuff. I've actually reached out to my former colleague and buddy Phil Nevin to ask if he would come on this podcast, of which he has agreed. We're just working on timing. Because, as I was thinking about ejections, right? And I think that there's probably a bigger conversation that we can have about this. And Nev got ejected 8 times as a manager, which is a lot for the amount of time that Phil spent as the manager of the Angels. But he also played for Augie Garrido at Texas. He played for Bruce Bochy. He played for Ron Gardenhire. He coached under Jim Leland, who's on the all-time list. He's been ejected as a coach. He's been ejected as a manager in the minor leagues. He's been ejected as a player, right? I just kind of thought it'd be interesting to get his thoughts and pick his brain a little bit about, what is the motivation of these ejections? What is it for you as a player, for you as a coach on a major league roster, for you as a manager? I don't know. He might just go, hey, what are you talking about? I just get pissed off and I yell. Maybe. That could be the answer to it. But I do feel like sometimes, what is the message? What is the point? Did you as a player, did you get fired up if Bochy would go and yell and scream and throw his big size 8 hat on the ground? Would you get all fired up when a manager, Ron Gardenhire or somebody, did that motivate the team? And then as you as a manager, did you just lose your cool, or were you trying to rile them up? Or did you just want to tell Angel Hernandez, you know what, you're a fucking asshole? Did you just want to do that on behalf of everybody in baseball who feels exactly the same way about that umpire?
And look, not to both sides of this, but if there's any way that we could have a similar conversation with umpires and what's going through their head when they toss someone and a manager's yelling at them, because a thing that I find funny, as someone who is a generously 5'8", I find funny the dynamic of some of the managers are small and some of them are huge, and if I'm an umpire and angry Phil Nevin is walking towards me, I'm a little scared. But if Andy Green is walking towards me, I'm like, get out of here. I'm not afraid of you. You could be the angriest you've ever been in your life, and I'm still not going to be afraid of you. Or Jace Tingler and all of his karate. But the 6'2", barrel-chested, angry as hell Phil Nevin's coming towards me. I'm like, I don't know, man. He could kill me if he wanted to, and people would be dragging him off me. And even like Bochy's that big too, but Bochy, I used to. Whenever Bochy would come into 1090, you and Marty had him come into the office a couple times, even when he wasn't managing the Padres anymore. And I'd see him walk down the hallway, and I'm like, I don't even know if I could walk if my legs hurt that bad. It's obvious how much pain he's in every step he takes. You're not afraid of him, despite the fact that he's a big guy. But Nevin would be scary, and I wonder if that goes through the head of an umpire.
Yeah, this is a big human being here. If he's really lost his cool, if he's really lost his cool, I might be in a little bit of trouble. You're right about Boch. I mean, Boch is he's such an enormous human being. If you've ever, and I'm sure a lot of people around San Diego have shook hands with Bruce Bochy. He's just it's like shaking hands with a catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
I was in his office one day after a game. He and I were just sitting there, and he went to take off his socks. I know this sounds like a weird tale to tell. Fine. But he went to take off his socks, and him just trying to, get down to his feet to take the socks off after all the years and all the
catching.
All the catching. It just was like, to your point about watching him walk, I always remember that, just how much effort it took for him just to kind of get down there and get the sanitary off his body. It's interesting what you say about Andy Green. And this was on the air, so I'm not telling any tale out of school here, but we interviewed Trevor Hoffman one year on opening day, and it was Andy Green's first year, so I'm guessing this would have been 2016. And, if you remember, Trevor was part of the interview process, and I think has been part of the interview process for managers.
Yeah.
And we had Trevor from the field opening day, and I remember saying, you were part of the interview process. You had an opportunity to chime in here on Andy Green. And he talked, he's like, yeah, I thought Andy did a good job in the interviews and all that. I said, well, what did you ask him out of curiosity? And I didn't expect like an answer. I expected, just some
fluff.
Yeah, whatever. And Trevor immediately responded. He goes, I asked him if he thought his height would be a detriment to him doing this job.
It's a fair question.
I think it's a very fair question. I was really appreciative that Trevor was so honest with us on the radio, because I think a lot of people probably would have been less than honest on that. When he got the job, I had a friend of mine who worked for the Diamondbacks, and I said, "Hey, who's Andy Green? Like, can you tell me?" And he didn't know that the Padres had hired Andy Green, and he goes, "That's like hiring Corey Spangenberg to be your manager." And I always remember that line. But I always appreciate that with Trevor, because, that's Trevor who's obviously viewing it through the lens of, I'm a Hall of Fame Major League Baseball player, and I understand the dynamics of a clubhouse.
Yeah.
And,
and
I know
played for Boch. Boch was a lot bigger than Trevor was, and I'm sure that mattered in their relationship.
Right. And I guess what we're saying here is, size matters, when it comes to some of these positions. But, there's a lot of studies about, successful people and CEOs and all that sort of stuff, which I think sometimes a little bit overrated. But I guess it still goes to show you, that inside of a clubhouse, to your point, somebody who's got a little bit of a physical presence, if especially, not everybody's got to be Nev, right? Because Nev's a big guy, Bochy, big man.
How tall do you think Mike Schilt is?
He's not. I'm taller than him.
I just looked this up. There's like I guess the
Cardinals,
I think it's 5'10". The Cardinals had a baseball card made for him where they put his height and weight. They put him as 5'9", 170.
Yeah, not a big guy.
I don't think there's a chance in the world that guy's 170. But yeah, it's 5'9". So me and him are probably roughly the same height.
And I always wanted to ask Andy, like, what was your answer? Like, what did you think when that question was asked to you by Trevor Hoffman? Like, I always just, I had a good relationship with him. I never really found an opportune time to do it.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was such a, an interesting thing to ask a guy in an interview. Do you think that your height would hold you back as a major league manager? And I'm sure he answered it well, because Andy was really smart guy.
Very well spoken.
Smart.
Yeah.
Gets a bad rap, even though he had, absolutely dog shit teams. People expected him to do and perform better. So off day, and then off to Colorado, where they will play against another guy who's, not one of the tallest human beings in Buddy Black. Boy, the Rockies are terrible, huh?
Look, that's been the story of the Rockies for 7 years now, right? They're just terrible.
6-29, John. They are 6-29 on the season.
Jesus. I don't. This is what I said. We can do this as like a little bit of a Padres Rockies thing. I said this to a friend of mine who lives in Denver. The last time the Padres played the Rockies. And I was like, it's been like 3 or 4 years since the Rockies have made any change to their coaching staff or front office. And I'm like, year after year, they're like losing 90 plus games and then just deciding to kind of run it back the next year. And I was like, I don't understand this at all. And if I was a Rockies fan, I'd be like, oh, okay, they're just happy being the shitty garbage team. Because that seems like what it is. The Buddy thing has always been really interesting to me. It was interesting when he was in San Diego. It's still interesting with the Rockies. I've never really been a big Buddy guy, but I wanted to be, because Buddy was supposed to be the one who proved that pitchers could be managers too. And I don't know if that affects him at all, or I felt like in San Diego it didn't. And I feel like in Colorado it probably doesn't either, but he's just been there so long and has such a bad team all the time, and probably a front office that doesn't support him in any way, that like his reputation is going down with the Rockies, I feel like. But I always loved the idea that someone could be like, hey, you think pitchers can't be managers? I can do it. I'm going to figure it out. Because there's just like none of those guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think the organization is trying, to be honest.
Yeah.
Look at the last couple of years: 6-29 this year, 61-101 the year before, 59-103.
They're losing
obviously
100 games every year and not changing a thing.
And the year before that, in 2022, they lost 94. The year before that, they lost 87. I mean, I'm with you. Like, if I'm Buddy Black, I'm like, fucking hell. Like, do I have any opportunity ever to manage again? I mean, it's been 9 years. That's as long as he was in San Diego.
He's got to go be a pitching coach somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's lost a lot of games there. 686 games. He's taken over two teams that have gone through it. But he's reliable and people like him, and there is something to be said for that. But they are a wreck, man. They just seem to be completely directionless.
Yeah.
At least like for a couple of years, you felt like Arizona was going someplace. I have a friend who worked for the Rockies for a long time. He's like, I don't know that they're ever going to win. But, they had a moment. They had to go to an extra game, his second year there. They went to that extra playoff game against the Dodgers. They were, I think they were the team that came closest. The Dodgers were on, what, a 10-year NL West winning streak? No, the Giants got in there 1 year.
Yeah.
But Colorado took them to an extra game back in 2018. So...
Hey, they've been to a World Series more recently than the Padres have.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed they have. I know. And that was the knock on Buddy when he got to San Diego. It's not that he was necessarily bad. It's that, that 2016 was pretty good. In 2007, you were trying to build on that. Probably not the time to say goodbye to Bruce Bochy. But
yeah,
it was what it was. And it happened, and we'll never know if a different manager would have been able to handle Milton Bradley differently, or if a different manager would have been able to manage that 2007 team differently. That won 89 games and sadly finished third in the NL West because the Colorado Rockies ended up doing it to them in 2007. John, did you watch any Champions League yesterday? We have our final. It's set. Paris Saint-Germain and Inter Milan on May 31st. Not a huge surprise there that PSG ended up winning the second leg, and they will advance to the Champions League final. Should be a good one. Should be a pretty tasty final. PSG has absolutely been the business here in this tournament, taking and knocking out Liverpool, now knocking out Arsenal, and the whole ownership thing is very squirrely, but, likable. I think likable as a team, a likable manager. So I think that should be a good final. I have absolutely no rooting interest in this whatsoever. I'm just hoping for a good final on May 31st. So hopefully we'll get that one.
I will try my best to watch that one. I did not watch the one yesterday. I'm glad you moved over to soccer, though, because I wanted to bend your ear just for a couple minutes about San Diego FC. Because they are playing St. Louis City SC.
Correct. Yep. This is team number 29. It's team number 30, and a rematch from earlier this season.
I know that you were out at lunch before we recorded, and I know you left your phone behind. So did you have a chance to peruse the old front row seat newsletter this morning that I sent out?
I think I did, yes.
Okay, so there's a link in there to something called First Alert 4, which I think is a local station in St. Louis, previewing this match. I recommend you click on it because the picture of Olaf Melberg, who at one point we were talking about what a handsome man he is, he looks miserable in this picture. And apparently the team has just kind of been garbage for like a month. There's some quotes in there from him where he's like, yeah, in a couple of these matches, I thought we were the better team for the first 30 minutes, and then we just lost it, and we're clearly not in the class of the other team for the final 60. So they're really going through it right now. But also, San Diego was going through it last week. So it's like, it's it's kind of a mirror image of last week, where it's like San Diego's coming in riding in high, FC Dallas came in riding in high, and St. Louis City SC is just like, God, can we just get off the schneid and get something going here? Play one full game where we're not embarrassed by the end of it. Do you have any feel for this game at all?
Well, when you bring up City, and they go by City, St. Louis, I do remember when they were in town, there seemed to be, and that was early in the year, and he's a new manager, but the chatter amongst the people who were around St. Louis that week, John, was that Olaf Melberg, who's the manager there, that people were pretty unhappy with just how it was going early on. This was match day 2. But people were pretty unhappy with, this place, this might not be it. Now, maybe that's just a new manager coming in, and this is the way we're going to do things. And I've been brought in here for a reason, all this sort of stuff, right? He's a defensive-minded guy, as we talked about. But there was definitely a sense from doing that game that's like, not everybody's so sure about this. This is going to be an interesting one to watch. And that maybe even some players are like, if I have an opportunity to go someplace else, maybe that'd be a good thing. So it doesn't sound like it's gotten better. I haven't seen a ton of them. I know they started the season, I think, with like 4 clean sheets in a row, 4 straight clean sheets. So, true to form as a longtime Swedish defender, he was prioritizing that early on. But it sounded like there was some unhappy people in the organization who were looking to perhaps move on. But that was then. It doesn't seem like it's gotten a whole lot better now. So, and by the way, the Wi-Fi, this podcast wasn't the only thing that messed with the Wi-Fi. I was supposed to do something with Adrian for the SDFC midweek live show. And because we had no Wi-Fi, I had to punt on Adrian as well. So
brutal. But people should wait. That was last night? The show was last night.
Sure.
Wednesday night. So
by the way, this just occurred to me. I don't know if you heard a bunch of bells ringing over the last couple of minutes here.
I did.
So if I'm reading social media correctly, has a new pope? Have they elected a new pope? Because I was wondering why all these bells were going off at 6:30.
Holy shit. I see an article from 45 minutes ago. Holy white smoke. We have a new pope.
Huh. I'm guessing that's why all the bells were ringing here. Because if you've ever been to any of these European cities, there's all these bell towers all over these cities. And they're usually taller than the actual buildings themselves, which was by design. The church, as law used to demand, the church had to be the tallest building so you could see it from anywhere in the city. Yeah. That's why when you go through some of the French cities and things like that, obviously we live in a time where there's a lot of high rises and such. But in a lot of these kind of towns, those are still the tallest buildings. So I heard all of these bells ringing. I was like, what is happening out there? I looked at my clock and we weren't at a top or bottom of the hour. So I'm guessing that was to indicate in real time that we have a new pope.
Yeah, It does not look like it has been announced who the new pope is yet. Says here Cardinal Dominique Mamberti, a 73-year-old Frenchman born in Morocco, is expected to make the announcement unless he himself has been elected pope, and then someone else will make the announcement, and then the pope will address the crowd at the Vatican. So
who do you got? Who will break the news? Will it be Shams? Will it be who will it be?
Can Woj come back and just drop one more Woj bomb?
Yeah. Who's the NFL guy from ESPN? What's his name? Adam
Schefter.
Adam Schefter. Will it be Schefter? Will he break the news? Who's got it? Will it be a passing bomb?
A passing bomb? Oh, yeah.
Is that what they call it?
A passing bomb. All I know is that social media is obsessed with one of the Cardinals. His last name is Pizza Balla. And they're all very excited for Pizza Balla, Pope Pizza Balla. So everyone on my timeline and on Blue Sky at least is very excited to find out whether or not it's going to be Pope Pizza Balla.
It's not the president of the United States, though. We actually saw somebody dressed head to toe in a full Pope regalia, standing on a corner doing some sort of street performance a little bit earlier while we were walking around, and I thought, I wonder if a new pope has been elected. But got back to the Airbnb and one had not. So there you go. Just happening. Maybe
that guy's the Shams of Valencia. He had your breaking news. You just had to go ask him.
Yeah.
Coming back to SDFC real quick. They have had 1, to 3 pretty bad road games in a row. Traveling to St. Louis, that's not a short journey. That's probably going to be a difficult environment for one reason or another. But then after that, they have 3 straight home games. So if they can handle City SC, they could go on a nice little run here. They're already, one of the 10 best teams in the league, and according to, ranking statistics and records, City SC is one of the 5 or 6 worst in the league. So they could get back on a nice little run here with a good game in St. Louis.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it'd also be good for them and their psyche to win a game on the road. To win a game, because obviously they started the entire campaign winning at Galaxy, and little did we know, I didn't think Galaxy was going to be good, but I didn't think they're going to be this bad. And then winning at Real Salt Lake was incredible. But the Austin game, you could kind of explain it because they had players who were on international duty, and still losing 2-1 to Austin, no big deal to me. Nothing really to be ashamed of. Losing at Colorado, I didn't feel like it was that bad. The Charlotte one was still the bad one. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to get back into the win column just to prove that you can win away. But, you talked about 3 straight. I think the number was like 6 out of 7 or 6 out of 8 were being played at Snapdragon Stadium. So, if you're going to be one of those teams, and home field advantage matters in Major League Soccer, matters a lot statistically. History has told us that. Then you're definitely going to want to win the home games. But this would be a nice one. It would be nice just to follow up after 5-0 demolition of FC Dallas. It'd just be nice to get on a little bit of a run here, and especially coming back to Snapdragon Stadium. It sounds like everybody's healthy. I haven't seen anything to the contrary, so it'd be a nice way to get back into the flow, as they like to say.
And the last time they played City, Chucky got hurt in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and then their offense just didn't know what to do without him. Ended up in a 0-0 tie, right?
Well, that was one where St. Louis didn't want to play. St. Louis didn't want to play at all. All St. Louis did, if you look at the statistics there, it was the most lopsided statistical game I think that SDFC has had in its history. And I would even include the game against, now the goals were scored against Dallas this past weekend, but I think possession-wise and passes, all of that, I think those are still records. Now, I know we're talking about a team that's 11 matches in, so take it with a pinch of salt. But when you look at how lopsided that was, St. Louis just was like, we're not playing. We're just going to sit in a low block and we're going to defend this entire game. I think they maybe had 1 shot on target. It was completely lopsided in favor of SDFC, and that's the way they just chose to play here. So when they were in San Diego, I should say. So I don't know that that's exactly what it is that they'll do again. But you're right, Chucky got hurt, and SDFC still dominated that match. But scoring's hard, especially when the other team's like, we're not interested. We're not interested in doing anything other than defending for 90 minutes, and that's what St. Louis did last time out. So it felt like SDFC was the way better side. It didn't feel that way. They were the way better side. Just couldn't score. Just didn't score in the game. So, now you're coming off a 5-goal performance. I still feel like SDFC probably owes St. Louis one from that first matchup. So, hopefully now with Chucky, it becomes a totally different result.
And we can probably wrap after this. I just want to tell this story before there's no reason to ever tell it again because I enjoyed it. So the first time they played City SC was the game that I went to. It was the home opener, the first SDFC game in San Diego. And at one point, I'm standing in the long-ass lines to get into the bathroom. And the guy in front of me is wearing a City SC jersey. And so, at some point, you just get chatty. And so I start chatting with the guy, and I point to the jersey, and I'm like, big City SC fan? And he points to the back of his jersey. It had like a name and a number. And he goes, that's my son. And I was like, oh, your son plays for City? And he goes, yeah. And I go, do you go to all the road games? And he goes, fuck no. But you think I was going to miss a chance to come to San Diego? And I was like, yeah, like it's every once in a while, it's nice to remember how people outside of San Diego view San Diego as like this amazing, magical place that you can't miss an opportunity to go to.
Yeah, they brought, I want to say, I think it was like 100 and something fans that they brought last time. So, they were... they definitely represent it. Maybe it wasn't LA, it wasn't LAFC or anything like that. I'm just trying to look up these stats real quick here before I just to make sure I'm not imagining this. Let's see. St. Louis, this was March 2nd. Statistics. 72% possession for SDFC to 28%. 72-28. Total shots 15-2. Corner kicks 15-2. Corner kicks 9-0. Passes 700 for SDFC, 279 for St. Louis.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was if you look at the shot map, you can see all these. Now they didn't have a ton of shots on target.
Yeah, only they couldn't get close.
Yeah, but they just built a perimeter around the 18, and they were like, "You're not getting through here."
Especially once Chucky was out, it was just like, "Good luck." They didn't have a great backup plan, and it was gutless.
It was gutless from St. Louis, in my opinion. I'm like, "Come on, man! You guys are sitting here, and you're going to bunker against an expansion team playing its second ever game. That's embarrassing. I'd be humiliated if I were a St. Louis fan after that one. But that's their deal, not ours. All right." Well, not sure exactly how this will work. I should be in Barcelona by about 3 o'clock Barcelona time, which is 6 o'clock in the morning. It's amazing how much we get done here by the time you all wake up. And obviously, it's because there's a 9-hour time difference. But we have walked 6 or 7 miles today. We had an amazing lunch. We had a bottle of wine with lunch. It's quite an experience to... You mentioned having to miss all the sports, but then us getting to do so many things before people even wake up in San Diego.
Actually, can I put in a request?
Yeah.
Since the Padres don't play today, SDFC doesn't play today, there's not going to be much to respond to, and I don't think anyone needs a deep breakdown of the SDFC game besides what we just did, or the Rockies series beyond what we just did. You and Leah, I think, owe the supporters and the community of Section 1904 a podcast about the nude beach experience.
Okay.
I've had several people go, "Where is the podcast about the nude beach experience?" So I think we might need another Darren and Leah podcast. I might not even need to be a part of it. I just might edit it and post it, but maybe that's our Friday content. I can put it behind a paywall if you and Leah want to make sure that the only people hearing the conversation are our actual supporters. I'll leave that up to you, but that would be my request, just paying off the nude beach story.
What about the horseback retreat? Any interest in riding Phrygian? She is, I'm telling you, there's a level of depression of, what's the term? I mean, it's not postpartum, but she's like, the rest of this trip just isn't cutting it because she's not.
That's interesting, but I want to know the why. Like, why is she so happy about riding Frisian horses? Because I know she has, like, a horse in San Diego she can ride, and so I want to know, like...
Well, she doesn't ride him that much, actually. He's 31.
That's fair.
Like, his riding days are pretty much...
But I want to know, like, why it was different, why it was special, why she loved it so much. I mean, obviously, you sent me a video of them riding through, like, the waves on the beach, and that's got to be special, but...
Yeah, it was great. It was even cool to watch it.
But I want to know from her, like, why it was so special and why she's kind of depressed that it's now in the past and not in the present or the future. So, yeah, I'll take some of that, too.
She's actually contacted the people that run it, and she's like, "Oh, how's the horse doing? How's he doing? Oh, okay."
Her pen pal, the horse.
Pretty much, yeah. She has his name. She keeps looking at pictures. So it's like I said, it was an amazing. It was cool to watch her enjoy something that much. So, all right, we'll do a podcast then. I'll volunteer her time about beaches and vino and all the great food. By the way, how about those pictures that I posted? Let me tell you, those pictures don't do any of that justice. The one picture of the pulpo of the octopus in that pureed potato, that was pureed potato that it was floating in. It was truly, like, if you're on death row and they give you the option, this is what I would consider. Was that the one that had the jamon, like, all around the outside, or was that something else? So that was artichoke and foie and the jamon. And I know foie. I know.
California, I know.
You don't need to send me. I understand it. But it's not like we treat our beef or chicken well either. But I understand, I just don't spend a ton of time thinking about it. But it is delicious. It is, it is quite delicious, and all those three flavors mixed up together. And then the tempura, langostino, the shrimp.
Yeah,
that was. I mean, and then that salad, that size of that tomato. Have you ever seen such a thing?
No, and then it had like a pepper like tucked into it, and I was like, God, that tomato looks. I would just eat that tomato and the pepper, and that could be lunch. It was huge.
Oh yeah, and then today, like we just went out and had scallops. And had another. People here don't eat a ton of salad out, and I don't know why, because they're delicious. In Europe, you go and you get your salad supplies from the market, and you eat salad at home, because when you go out, you're going to go eat the things that you can't make at home, right? You can't make like a tempura at home. Yeah. You can't puree potatoes. So we have a friend who's French, and she's like, "Who the fuck eats salad out? You people are crazy in the States, paying $20 for these salads. Are you out of your fucking mind?" So she's very funny when she says it with her French accent. But we still, we've had a couple here that have just been off the charts. But man, it's something else. Like I said, we'll be back to Valencia. We're not bummed to be going to Barcelona, where the weather is supposed to be atrocious. I mean, absolutely atrocious. Like severe rain warning. For the match on Sunday, 80% chance of rain. Hopefully that changes.
Are you guys bringing raincoats? Garbage bags?
We do have some friends who are there. We might ask them to purchase us some ponchos.
Might need them.
We might need them as well. It's not supposed to be like this time of the year. This is not the rainy season. It's supposed to be much sunnier. So, all right. Well, we made it. The Wi-Fi held up, which I would say was a very, very pleasant surprise. And I don't know where exactly we'll be next when you hear from us, but I like the idea of us recapping our trip. So I will do that, and that will be waiting for you, John, by the time you awake tomorrow morning, as we make our 2-hour and 25-minute train ride from Valencia to Barcelona, which it's just we got to figure out our trains. Just got to figure out our trains in the U.S.
Darren, in the last week, I've had 4 different people tell me either in person, via email, or on the Discord, Darren doesn't need to talk about sports. While he's there, I just want to hear about his travels and what he's doing and what he's eating and what he's drinking. So, yeah, a full episode of that would please a lot of people.
We have a market next to us that is, I mean, have you been into a European market? We have Liberty Station Market, which is good.
Liberty Public Market.
Yeah, Liberty. It's a fun place. But like these markets, and they have all of the meat counters. It feels like they just have dozens of meat counters, and it's incredible. They have places that you can eat stuff right there. You can have a little croissant with some jamon and cheese, and you can just have a cup of fruit, and it's the freshest fruit. We never eat pineapple when we're in the States, ever, because it's always so stringy. It just doesn't. Maybe we're not buying it at the right place. Possible, but we had pineapple this morning that. The two of us looked and were like, where is this pineapple? Where has this been our whole life? And the coffee, like you get up, we had a little wine last night. We haven't been hungover, I don't think, this whole trip. I think one day I was hungover, which I could explain. Her and her horseback community, it was all women, and they started talking about online dating. I was like, I'm out of here. I poured myself a huge glass of red wine and walked out. But, you go, you get up, you have a little bit of coffee in the morning, and it's just like, just get you going. Then you have a little croissant, a little pastry, a little bit of fruit. And then this market, you see all these old ladies pushing their shopping carts around. We saw another market that we're going to go to tonight. And I'm begging for this to come to Imperial Beach. Will Holder, if you're listening, I'm begging for this to go and take over that building right there on Seacoast Drive, where you have, just 4 or 5 different restaurants or wine shops or cafes, one on one floor, next floor, then the next floor. And they're all just different concepts. And you just walk in and people are enjoying themselves at this storefront and that front. And you go, man, what a great place. What a great meeting place for people to just go in there and hang out with one another instead of, just having to wander around from one place to the next. But anyway, I'll talk more about it.
Yeah, at one point I was in LA for business a couple years ago, and my hotel was down the street from something called Grand Central Market in downtown LA, which is very similar to what you're talking about. It's a bunch of, you walk in and it's just, people from all over everyone's got a stall. There's butchers, there's people making sandwiches, there's someone doing drinks, there's the fruit cups, there's ice cream, It's like everything. and everything's really fresh and delicious, and there's always a spot that's selling beer, and you can sit, and it's kind of like Liberty Public Market, but I know what you're saying. Like, it's just turned up a couple notches. And I remember coming back from that going like, man, we need one of these in San Diego. Like, and Liberty Public Market tries to get there, but it's almost a little too clean, and a little too controlled. It needs more chaos added to it.
Right. Plus, I don't think the local old ladies, when we did our paella class, this is where we went and shopped for our ingredients. And our guide, who was tremendous, her name is Megan. She's from the north of Ireland. And she said, it's a great little tip that you just follow around the old ladies pushing the carts, because they always know like which the vendors are that you want to go to for your vegetables, for your fruits, for your meat. Like and sure enough, you look around, you see a bunch of old ladies with carts pushing them around so that they can pick up their groceries, so they can eat their salads at their house, since you won't pay for that stuff in public. And I think that's the thing that's different about Liberty Station is, it's not like a place to go where you're like, oh, let me... There's a couple places, like we bought a steak there once. I don't know that butcher shop is still open.
Yeah.
But it's not like this, where it's just so many stands of vegetables and seafood, and it's so fresh. The eels are still alive. The eels are still alive.
Liberty Public Market is like a bunch of little restaurants. What I like is it's an actual market where you can go and do your shopping if you need to. But there's also the places that you can buy a sandwich if you need to as well.
Yeah. And, you can just have a cortado and a croissant and a cup of fruit, and you could sit outside. And we just caught up on email in the morning. It's like, oh, okay, let's just go begin our day. And there's some tourists to it, but it's also very local, and it just feels like these old ladies have been going to this market for 50 years, Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, there's definitely some downside to a lot of these things, like dodgy Wi-Fi and, This city, though, I will say, this city used to have, I probably shouldn't even, this city used to have a major river that was going right through the middle of it.
Yeah.
And it was so prone to flooding one day, the people that were running the city were just like, we got to get rid of this river. And they're like, I don't know how they did it. I was going to go back and look it up. But they literally just dried up the river somehow. They just built some sort of aqueduct system.
Yeah.
So now that water can flow out to 8 different regions around the city, so that farmers in and around the area can still get water. But what they did with the river in the middle, they made it green space. And they just made it so that it's a huge public park with bike trails and running trails. And there's museums in the riverbed. And the river's probably about 100 yards wide. And there's bridges all across, at every quarter mile, whatever. And it's just a clever use of space, just to have this green space right in the middle of the city for people to enjoy, for the citizens, for the people who are visiting, just to enjoy, right smack dab in the middle of the city. And then I just figured out how to flow the water some other direction. You're like, oh, wow, that's kind of brilliant. That's a really smart thing to do. So I think the other thing we'll talk about too is, did you ever see the Saturday Night Live bit where they're all sitting around, like the old founding father type figures are sitting around, they're like, we're going to create a new country. And they start talking about all the silly things that we do in the U.S. that nobody else in the world does.
Yeah.
Like, like we were walking across the street, like, why don't we use the 24-hour clock? Like what is the benefit to having 2 12-hour clocks again? Like, we're sort of just asking ourselves, what's the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius? Like, why do we use one or the other?
Yeah.
I think there's actually an answer to that. But
why did we abandon the metric system? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because Leah said something about like a mile, and somebody was like, a what? Like, well, what the hell's a mile? Like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. So, all right. Well, anyhow, it looks like it stopped raining. There's a new pope. The bells have stopped. So we're going to call that a podcast, and we'll do it again soon.